on one specific day every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that is released to the market on a daily basis gets cut in half. And when I realized this, I said, if you cut the supply of any asset that's being released to the market on a daily basis, if you cut that in half, obviously you will see a price supply shock. And what a supply shock is, if you don't know, is where the price just goes straight up for a given time frame. Like, you don't know exactly how long the price is going to go straight up, but it is going to happen if you have an asset where the demand remains any way level. It's very obvious to me that you're going to have a supply shock, but I think people are not taking advantage of this, and they're not going and using that information to make a lot of money because they don't even know what happens. It happened in April of 2024, and it happens every 4 years. Why it's every 4 years is it's every 210,000 blocks in Bitcoin. One block is 10 minutes. So if you multiply 10 minutes by 210,000, it gives you about 4 years, roughly speaking. This information is some of the most important information in Bitcoin. You just need to be directionally correct. And to do that, you need to buy at the right times. You need to sell at the right times. I don't recommend ever selling all your Bitcoin. If I was to say to you that the amount of property that was being released to the market was known, everyone knew exactly how much property was being released, how many houses were being sent onto the market every day. Then you were to say, okay, we're going to cut that supply that's being released to the market in half on one particular day. What do you think would happen to the price of that asset after you did that, after you cut that supply in half? After 6 months, the price would be starting to rise a lot. Why it is 6 months is because in a market, in an economy, it takes about 6 months for any asset to realize, or the market to realize, that there has been a supply shock, or the supply has been cut in half. It generally takes about 6 months for any market to realize that the supply of a particular asset has been cut in half. And in Bitcoin, everyone knows that the halving is going to happen, but some people have more information than other people. It just depends on how much research you've done. If you know that the halving is going to happen, then you're going to take the actions that is going to make you the most money. Like, why wouldn't you do that? You're not going to sit around and not make money if you know that a supply shock is going to happen. But now you know the supply shock is going to happen, because I'm telling you, it takes about 6 months for the market to realize that there has been a drop in the supply, because there would be a supply that would be still on the market from the previous rate of supply. There would be an amount of supply currently on the market at that time. But then once that previous supply has dried up, and then you are only left with the current supply, and when the current supply has been cut in half, you then have obviously a lot less supply being released to the market. So every 4 years that happens with Bitcoin. And the people who might buy some Bitcoin sometimes, and they don't really know much about it, they have the application, they're buying it, and they're hoping the price goes up. Those people may not know how important the Bitcoin halving is, because it's the most important event in Bitcoin overall, I think, because you have a known rate of supply, and then one day it's cut in half and you have a lot less supply. I'm trying to give myself advice if I was just starting out in cryptocurrency again. And what I would say is just invest time more so than money in researching the Bitcoin halving and just trying to figure out how it works, because I can tell you all this stuff about the rate of supply gets cut in half in 6 months for the market to realize that there has been a supply drop, and for the previous supply to dry up, and then the current supply is all the supply there is. I can tell you all this stuff, but you can go and research it yourself. I think I just need to sort of guide you in the right direction for you to figure out what's important, and then you can go and make money. And once you understand this information, you don't need to relearn it. That's an important thing with Bitcoin, where with some other things, whatever the industry you're involved in is, you might need to constantly relearn what's happening and constantly be up to date. I don't know if I'm not involved in other types of trading or whatever, but if you're involved in other types of things, you might have to constantly relearn the process because things might be changing so much. The information with Bitcoin is never going to change, so you need to learn it again. You just need to get the basic concepts understood, and then you can use them forever. Bitcoin cycle is based, in my opinion, around the Bitcoin halving, and that will continue every 4 years. And you just use the information to your advantage to multiply your entire net worth. Some people think about making profits or making 20% profit, or I made 17% profit. People saying things like this online. The way I think about it is multiplying your entire net worth. If you want to be involved in stocks, that's up to yourself. But if you know what you want to do or what a company should do, if you have a process where you know, okay, if a company does this, they're going to make money. The company is currently doing that, so I'm going to invest in that company. But how can you be sure that the board of directors is going to take those correct actions for you that you want them to take? There's no way to be sure of that. The people in control of the company are going to make the decisions, and they might make the wrong decision. That is why I feel with Bitcoin you have all the information, but with stocks you don't, and with companies you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, is the industry going to change? Is AI going to close down the business? Are they going to be able to adapt to the new technology that's coming out? So with Bitcoin, you have all the information because it's there in code. Obviously, there are new things being created for Bitcoin every day, but that doesn't change the core concepts of Bitcoin. They are things that are added on top of Bitcoin. Like there might be a new application built for a new wallet or something like that. These things are usually to help Bitcoin scale because we can always use new technology that will help Bitcoin scale, but we don't have all the information when it comes to companies because you don't know what they're going to do tomorrow. With Bitcoin, you know that the Bitcoin halving is always going to be the same. So you can just use that information to your advantage every single time. And every time there is a 4-year cycle, you are going to get a lot better at using that information to your advantage. So research the Bitcoin halving. If you are starting out in Bitcoin, invest your time before you invest your money because it's going to bring you more value over the long term. Because if you understand what's happening, then you can just specifically take the actions that are going to make you the most money.